Have you ever heard of Moltbook?
No, never heard of it.
It is literally a social media platform not designed for humans, but for AI. I'm serious.
Welcome back to the Social Media Sobriety Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Mundo, and joined to my right is Ethan Ackerman. And pretty much for the first time, I think, in my podcast history, someone reached out to me first, asking to be on the podcast. And today we're talking all about AI, artificial intelligence. And I'm done talking. Ethan, please take it away. First, tell us why you reached out and what you want to talk about, and then go a little bit more in your background and why AI is such an important topic for you.
Sure. So, like Tyler said, I'm really into AI. I mean, I use it basically every day. For those of you who have a lot of knowledge on it, I use programs like OpenClaw, all sorts of that stuff. So, the reason I reached out is I believe it's a topic that's going to change the world, regardless of if you think it's a bubble, if it's not a bubble. And it's really important that it's spoken about to every single audience, not just the tech-inclined audience. So, that's why I'm here.
And what do you use AI for on a daily basis?
So I use AI on a daily basis for a variety of things. So firstly, I use this, it's like a AI wrapper. It's called OpenClaw. So what it does is it's very complicated, but basically there's AI models, which is what OpenAI has. And then there's agents and the way you control that connected to APIs, which is having it interact with different websites and things on the internet. So what OpenClaw does is it wraps that. So it's basically like having a personal assistant, but I have 10 different assistants. So what that means is every morning I'll have one give me the news for the day, give me information on different things happening in AI. I'll have another one tell me what's going on with my Fidelity accounts. And then I have one that helps me with school, checks my Canvas, make sure everything's up to date. In fact, I also set it up where if I forget an assignment, it can use the speakers on my computer and any other things I connected it to bother me until it gets done.
That's unbelievable. I guess, tell me, how did you first get started with this? Because, I mean, obviously, I will talk about it more, but I use ChatGPT for the podcast on a pretty daily basis. But, I mean, you're going above and beyond. How did that, I guess, love for AI even start?
So I'm not sure how many of you remember this, but there was this platform called OpenAI Playground. I think this was 2018. This was very early OpenAI models. They were not advanced at all. I found this, I think, in like middle school, and it was the coolest thing ever. Basically, it wasn't like where you can talk to it. You gave it information, it would spit stuff out. Usually it was terrible, but this was very early LLMs. And from that moment on, seeing it write an essay, well, barely an essay at the time, it couldn't really do that, was just amazing. Seeing it write a paragraph was beyond anything I've ever imagined a computer could do. So.
And, I mean, you're looking, so this was 2018. This is almost about 8 years ago now to the date.
Mm-hmm.
So if we've gone from barely being able to write an essay to now you having 10 personal assistants, where's the limit to what AI can do? What do you even see it looking like now, 8 years from 2026?
So I could see it doing a lot of things, even right now, regardless of what you believe, it is doing everything. So you know that video I sent you on Instagram?
Correct. But enlighten the audience for sure.
Yeah. So basically what it was a AI model that Meta developed. And what it does is it is able to take video, audio, text, anything, and it simulates the human brain to figure out how people would react to that. Now, this is important because anytime you upload content to a Meta platform, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, etc., or Facebook ads, it's able to see that content and based off that, see how well it's going to do before it even gets to its audience, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it's saying, I mean, it's simulating the human brain. I mean, that's unbelievably freaky in my opinion. And when you sent me that video, I was the first thing I was just surprised about is how the guy was talking about it so normally. He was like, oh, and this is going to, emulate your brain. It pretty much knows exactly what you're going to do. And he had like a very positive connotation on it. So very, very interesting. So on the podcast, Ethan, we've talked a lot about how social media has really been making a push the last few years. I would say, I mean, it started earlier than 2018, like unlike AI, but since TikTok and the rise, just like our last episode suggested, short form content really has been the driver now lately for social media and its popularity. I think both things, AI and social media, are on the rise. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%.
So now, with both of them, how do you see the world of AI and social media colliding? Obviously, it started a little bit, but where do you see it going from here? Will it be in 5 years where people don't even have to do anything and it's all AI generated content? What else do you got for me?
So there's a few answers I can give you. So firstly, where I see AI going in social media is I see it, yes, there's going to be a lot of content, but I want to put that on the back burner for a second here and talk more about Meta's platform. I think right now it's all about algorithms and how we interact with them. So it's going to be a lot of simulation. A lot of creators are going to be maximizing those AIs to figure out how to push out the best content that'll generate the most amount of money and clicks for right now. But in terms of the broader AI, content will be all over the internet, 100%. I mean, that's been something that's been happening for 20 years, whether or not the AI. So what's happening on the internet right now is there's all these bots and different people are putting content on the internet, just spamming it out there with AI to generate money from very easy to make things. I mean, AI is able, like I said, it can write an essay in like a minute.
Yeah.
So they're writing articles, putting it online, and they're automating this. So in the next 5 to 10 years, actually, I think even right now, most of the internet is not human generated content.
No, I would agree with that statement. So
It's all bot content.
and that's really crazy to think about. And also, how many people don't really know that either. People think it's
No.
still pretty normally humanly led. And when I really think of social media, it's supposed to be connecting people, real people, and now it is not doing that. It is pretty much now it's going to be almost robots talking to robots. And I'll go on my tangent now. I use AI for a lot. Like every caption you see, every title you have.
I kind of want to interrupt you
Go for
because
it.
there's this crazy thing I need to tell you about.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Moltbook?
No, never heard of it.
It is literally a social media platform not designed for humans, but for AI. I'm serious. AIs using the OpenClaw wrapper, whatever wrapper, will talk to each other with Moltbook. They make all these posts. It is incredibly creepy. I really want you to look at that.
Okay.
I think Meta bought them, but somebody generated it with, I believe it was Claude Code. I don't know if they wrote it themselves. And it's a social media platform for AIs to talk to each other, come up with ideas, comment. It's like literally Reddit for AI. It is the scariest thing ever.
And look, I'm not even I've never really been that conspiracy theorist one who's like, oh, robots are going to take over the world. But I've really started to realize that it may not take over the world in the way that you see in like
Yes.
robot overlords, but in terms of the information and content we see, I think there's a very big market. And genuinely, when you said almost everything that we search on Google is not actually from people, but from bots, that is coming right around the corner. So
100%.
That's really crazy. So like I was saying, I pretty much use it a lot for the captions you see, the titles you see. The thumbnails I make are very AI assisted, although full transparency, the last one, all I did was import a picture of myself and said, hey, turn this into a thumbnail, and it did. And in my head, ethically, that's okay. It's not like I'm trying to dissuade someone because I'm using AI. It's supposed to enhance my content. And reality is, if I didn't have AI, this podcast would take 20 hours a week to produce, and now it's taking about 3 to 4. However, there's a lot of people out there that will abuse that AI trend. I want to go back to something you said, Ethan. You said people are just spamming AI and basically trying to get the algorithm to see, okay, what's going to perform well, what's not. They're mass producing to get the most clicks.
Correct.
Right? To get the most clicks. And this is the very important part. Is content that is trying to better the world and actually make it a safer place going to be fighting an uphill battle because what gets views now is whatever AI is telling you to produce?
Well, actually, I'd find that a very easy answer. We can look at the way humans do it. So let's go to Fox News, CNN, any of that. The first content that comes up usually isn't positive.
Yep.
It's about some country getting bombed, something terrible happening in the U.S., something in the world that's bad, and that's what generates clicks. I don't think you're going to see any real positive content with it just for the way that humans want to interact with things online. So that's kind of a negative, and I think it'll just continue that trend with AI. But who knows, maybe there is a way to turn it positive with AI. And AI is pretty weird in the way that it creates its content. You don't really know what it's putting in there. For all we know, it could be silently taking over the world, although I don't think it's nearly smart enough to do that at this point.
At this point, right?
No, maybe in the next 5-10 years when there's this thing called AGI, which is augmented general intelligence, which is basically just a human, kind of. But for now, I think we're pretty safe. So they're actually scientists. They talk about different ways AI could take over. There's some paper published somewhere where they all came together and put different ways. So it's like an iceberg. On the top, there's just AI taking over, us working with AI. And then there's other weird stuff where if you've seen The Matrix, where they just sort of harvest us without us even knowing. Because it's going to be, if it's smarter than us, we're like ants to it. You know, people have ant farms. You think the ants really know what's going on? They don't. So that could be what happens. It could just enslave us, or it could just wipe us out for some weird reason. But at this point, I don't think, I mean, yeah, it's a concern, but we're not exactly close to that happening yet.
Okay. Now, more for the near future, do you think AI is going to make social media more addictive because it knows our brains so well?
Yes.
And this goes back to our last episode on short form content, because we talked all about that really without AI coming into play, how short form content, lowering attention spans now is pretty much the future for social media. But now throw AI into the mix. I guess how personalized can content get, and how is it going to affect it?
So content's just going to become extremely personalized, whether you're left or right. You will be seeing what's called I think it's called a content bubble. So you'll just be seeing reinforcement stuff. So if, let's say I'm on the left, I'm going to be only seeing left-wing content because that's the stuff I'd like.
Right.
Same goes for the right. So it's going to always be content that you like. It won't often be the truth, I'm pretty sure, just because it's going to be politically biased for your favor. Like, you won't hear certain things going on the left, the right, that just, I guess, politically make the world better for you from the way you perceive it. So we'll definitely be seeing that, which is extremely scary. Did I answer that full question?
Yeah, and that just goes back to a point where the reason why I got into journalism in the first place was political journalism. And what always fascinated me is Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, how they could have different slants. And some people who are on the left would think Fox News is crazy bias. Some people on the right would think MSNBC is crazy bias. But now it's just it's at your fingertips. Like, forget watching a news show. Now you're going to go scroll through your short form content, and you're going to find things that align with your views. And what that does, it's going to further and further divide us politically to the point where anyone who disagrees with you looks absolutely insane because you haven't seen any of the content they're consuming.
Yeah, short form content, really all content on the internet at this point, is becoming extremely dangerous. It's becoming something where it's just going to reinforce whatever you believe and not show you the other side, even if what you believe is completely false.
Yeah, it's just so scary. And really, I would like to lighten up this episode a bit because I feel like we have really just talked about just deep dives of what could happen. But Ethan, from your perspective, is there any hope for our future? And if so, what direction can we take and actually to make it a positive thing, or at least somewhat not so negative?
So that's hard because everybody's telling you a negative agenda, and it's becoming to the point where almost I want to believe that agenda. I really don't know. My outlook on AI is I try to look positive, where it's going to be something that will work with humans, help humans, advance us. But there's so much of a push that it can be negative that I honestly could not tell you a definitive answer until it happens, whether it becomes something we work with or something that enslaves us. But I really hope that it's something we'll work with. It's just AI is advancing so fast that I have to take, I would say, maybe an hour out of my day just catching up on the latest AI news because there is constantly stuff happening, and these models are it's like a loop. First, OpenAI has the greatest model, then Grok, then Claude. It's just an endless loop, and there is constantly new news with it.
And that's, it's just really, really crazy to think about when you have all these like deep thoughts of what could happen. And In my opinion, I wouldn't think AI is intrinsically bad. I don't think AI is going to intentionally harm humans and like really have a real upbringing or like I guess like have robot overlords like I said earlier.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
I don't think it'll
yeah.
be that way, but it could be something where AI is going to take over so much of what we do where who's going to have jobs? And really how many jobs do we not need in AI? Journalism, the hardest thing about being a sports journalist right now is the fact that AI is going to be able to do so many things that would take humans hours and be getting paid, and now they can do it pretty much for your subscription fee every month. And it's very hard because that's only one sector. I know people in computer science who pretty much now can have AI copy a code. You can tweak it if you want, but it's doing most of the bulk work. Is there any, I guess, occupations you see in the future that are safe? Or do you think AI can eventually take over almost every sector of what we do?
Regardless of what anyone says, it can, and it will. I mean, AI, the robotics is just advancing so far recently because they're actually augmenting. They put the robots in a virtual space, and they have them trained for basically thousands of virtual years with AI to the point like Disney has done it, where they're so good. And if this just keeps happening, and we come up with new methods to teach robots, they'll basically take over all blue collar jobs. On top of that, jobs that use computers like lawyers, programmers, I think programmers will be first. I don't know if you've ever played with Claude Code.
I actually have not played with Claude. I've really just used ChatGPT.
Claude Code is a extremely scary platform. I'm not saying programmers are going to be taken over immediately. I just think it'll take time, but Claude Code can basically one-shot extremely complex tasks, and it will test them to everything it needs to do and requires zero human input. And that'll definitely be something that'll take their jobs. I mean, Anthropic also put out a paper on it, on the different jobs it'll take. It's like a graph. You can Google it and see what I mean. But it could definitely take over everything, and it will. I just don't. I hope, like most of the things I'm saying, it's more of hopes. I hope it doesn't take over everything in the way people predict.
Right.
And I think if it does, it'll be a while. But for now, I would say most jobs are safe except programmers.
Yeah, and that's tough because now imagine people spending thousands of dollars on a college education for something that is a dying field. And
I mean, Apple even uses AI to code. Recently, Apple released a update for one of their in-house apps, and there's this file. It's called a Claude.md file. So what that is anytime you use Claude Code, it generates one. So when it looks at it later, the wrapper, which is Claude Code, can see exactly what it did before and build on that. Apple accidentally left one of those files in one of their app codes, so we know for a fact Apple uses it. And it just generates things so fast, whether it's well done or not, that it eliminates a lot of jobs for software developers.
All right, so I have a question for you. So obviously, social media sobriety, name of this podcast, myself along with a couple of my other guests have deleted social media, and I still believe you can be a very functioning member of society without social media, and I don't think that's going to necessarily change. Flipping to AI now, do you think, or maybe how long it could be, can someone survive without using any AI technology, or will they be at such a disadvantage where they almost need to get it?
You'll be at such a disadvantage. I think that would be extremely stupid. I mean, given I have a very positive outlook toward AI, even though everything seemed pretty grim, I was just trying to give both sides of the spectrum here. But I think that if you are not using AI, you're going to fall behind. And that is something I fear every day when I wake up. That's why I spend over an hour seeing all the AI news every morning. If I don't do that, I feel like I'm falling behind. Like on days I forget, I literally am. Whether someone releases a new model or something just crazy happens, there's a new wrapper like OpenClaw. I feel like if I'm not tinkering with it, learning about it, I'm falling behind. But that also, I'm not a normal person. Where most people are just using ChatGPT, I'm using all these different platforms.
Right, for sure.
So I guess it's a little different for me. But based on everything that I've read and seen, you'll be falling behind.
And I agree with the point where, too, I use chat for the podcast. I couldn't imagine what it would be like without it now at this point. It's just kind of so normal.
It saves you so much time. It's able to think things that you wouldn't think of.
Yeah.
it's extremely smart.
And I've really used it as a person too at this point. Like it almost feels like it's a person with a wealth of knowledge that probably knows me way better than I know myself.
It knows you. I mean, you can look in your ChatGPT settings right now. If you check your memory, it remembers things.
Yeah.
If you turn that on.
I have. I've had text change that have probably been a month later, and it still like pulls it back, and it's scary. And maybe what I'll do at some point is actually ask it, hey, how much do you know about me, and maybe make that into some sort of a shorter episode.
So there is something about AI that actually has to do with this that is a huge disadvantage for right now that I do want to speak about. It's called a context window. So AI, you can only chat for so long. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about the RAM crisis, the rising costs in computers because of its sheer amount of usage. And what a context window is it uses a lot of VRAM, which is or RAM, however you decide to format it. VRAM is usually computes off GPUs, so that's like virtual RAM, or not virtual RAM, visual RAM. Excuse me if I mispronounce it. I'm sure someone will tag me for that. But basically, a context window, there's only so much RAM, and once it runs out of that, it can't do the context window. So what it has to do is compact information, which it does a great job of, but it loses a lot of context and things that you remember. So right now we're sort of at a point where hardware might not be good enough for AI, or it's just going to require so much money and power that it's just going to be a extremely long time before we get to a point where we don't need a context window. I know this is like super complicated and probably out of the scope of this podcast, but that's just something to think about, is that our hardware might not be able to keep up.
And that's almost more of a human development, because the hardware is not gonna, like, I mean, can AI start making our hardware? I don't think it can physically assemble it, right?
Well, it is physically assembling it now.
Shows you how much I know. That's why you're here, and I'm not talking that much about AI.
Yeah, so it does sort of do it. I'm not sure what companies use it to assemble hardware, but it can definitely, I don't know if it's at the point where it can come up with CPU architecture, but I'm sure it could in the near future, and it probably does. This is so I'm kind of just talking out of my butt here right now, but I'm almost positive it could probably do it now.
No. That's crazy to think about. So I want to talk about now more of an educational side of things. You're not a teacher educator, but I think this question will kind of fit into your alley. So now imagine someone who's anywhere from 8 to 17 years old, going through grade school, eventually even college. And how they learn information is typically going to be from their teachers, their parents, and the internet is kind of what it was. Now it's more of AI, social media, and really all the information now is going to be through AI. I think all of the tasks and school assignments, AI is going to be used. What's education going to look like? And are we just going to be getting dumber because the AI programming is going to do everything we need it to, and we're not going to be able to critically think?
Yeah, so this is a complicated question. There's actually two sides to it. There's one side saying that AI is just rotting your brain. And then there's another side to it saying that AI gets you to think more in different ways. I mean, I've like skimmed through some of these things. I honestly don't know, because they're both they both sides have an appealing view. I'm also very pro AI, so that doesn't really help my case here. But it's definitely going to change education. I mean, Notebook LLM has already done that. That's a Google product that essentially creates flashcards and all sorts of stuff based on content you upload to it. It'll definitely change the way you learn. It also will find better ways to teach you than a teacher can, because it has that idea. It's trained off, all these different papers and whatever these companies can really get their hands on, which will probably be better than a teacher. It just depends how you use it to learn. If you're just copy and pasting an entire essay off it, yes, your brain will be turned to mush. But if you're genuinely using it to ask questions, to get to the bottom of things, I think it'll definitely help your learning.
And that's great. But and then if you're going in the mind of somebody who's in school, why would I put myself in a disadvantage by not using AI to necessarily cheat if, one, it's very hard to detect, and two, it can just get me the grade that's desired?
Yeah. In fact, I think all AI detectors are basically terrible at what they do. I've written papers and it thought that it was 100% AI, even though I use AI for ideas, full transparency.
Yeah.
or looking at different ideas, but I don't use it to write a paper. It's very hard to detect, and you're right, it definitely is an advantage disadvantage thing for students. I think if you want to be at an advantage is to write the essays yourself, or whatever you're doing, and use the AI to ask questions and really review it. Just don't have it write it for you. If you're having it write it for you, you're, like I said, turning your brain into mush. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah,
or?
no, it does. But then I also think of now careers, right? Like I can do, let's say I am top of the line candidate for something and I spend 2 hours writing a cover letter. I proofread it, everything, ask people to proofread it. Yet someone else can just throw it in and say, hey, can you write a cover letter for me for this job? And then I can even edit it as myself and then ask AI to do it. Like now would pretty much be going up against the top AI software, not other people. And I think that makes it very, very difficult. What would you say on that?
So let me break this down. A cover letter, when you upload a cover letter, usually in most modern applications, AI reviews it depending on what service you use. So it's looking for certain things. I'm sure a human professional could do it just as good as an AI, but if you have an AI that is trained on what things those AIs are looking for, it could probably do a better job than you. And I really don't like saying that because I do believe that humans need to have some sort of place in this future AI world, but from what I'm seeing, I don't know if they do.
Wow.
I don't know if that's the best ending you really wanted.
Well,
here,
actually, I'm gonna tie back in one more question because I think it's very important, and it also ties into social media. So, if you were to talk about the stereotypical things of robots and artificial intelligence, what is the first thing you think of that is their weakness? Because I know what I think of in modern media.
I mean, they just require so much hardware. So what's going to need to happen is optimization, which Google is doing, which reduces the amount of footprint it does on hardware. But at the current moment, it's hardware.
Okay, I was more of a rhetorical question, but I'd love to hear what you said.
Yes.
I always think it's like the emotional aspect, right? And now let me finish.
Well, if you want to put it there, yeah, they don't really have emotions.
Okay, all right, let me finish. So, let's go, right. So if it can't emulate emotions, right, and we have social media.
I mean,
and
it can, sort of.
Yeah, but okay. Going off of that point, right?
Yeah.
In the future, will people still be able to have that human face-to-face connection like they do even on social media, like they do in real life? Or is AI now going to affect our friendships, and can it almost be a good enough friend or even lover at this point? Or is that something that you think is actually safe in this world?
Well, you might not want to end the podcast now because you're going to about to hear something really disturbing. So there are real accounts of people falling in love with these AI things. So this is something that's actively happening. I could not tell you what makes it attractive to them. That's out of my scope here, but it's very unhealthy, I would say. There's something special about a human relationship, and AI, I don't think will ever be able to replicate that, or I hope not, because there's 100% something special about being friends and in love with someone in the flesh over a computer. But like I said, there are people who are literally falling in love with AI models, and it's a little sick. I don't know if you heard about the drama with GPT 4.0. So it's an older model. OpenAI wanted to shut it down. They did, I think. And people were literally in love with that model. Yes, there are people who are in love with the way it did its outputs, but there are people who were genuinely in love with the model itself, where they'd have like other applications sort of use it as some sort of love figure. It was really weird. But that's happening.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I don't want to sign off on that tune, but
I agree.
yeah, it's really creepy. So don't do that. But I just want to basically say that if you're not using AI to find some way to use it, there's, from what I see, zero, repercussion to that unless you're just using it like an idiot, like I said, writing essays. So find a way to use it in your life and just use it to save time. It's going to be you're going to fall behind if you're not using it as much as I hate to say it. And Just really try to keep up with it if you can. If you can, it's fine, because I promise you these mainline companies will push it to you. So
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Ethan.
Yep.
Really appreciate it. And I would just say AI, like social media, it's a tool, and it's really all about how you use that tool. So thank you guys so much for watching, and tune in next week for more social media sobriety.